All right, let's get right down to it. We're going to tackle a philosophical problem today that, at first glance, seems to completely break logic. It's a puzzle that sounds absolutely absurd, but you got to stick with me on this because it actually shows us something really profound about how we know things and what it even means to prove something is true.
So, here it is. This is the big, absurd claim. Just let that sink in for a second. Looking at a green apple gives you evidence that all ravens are black. I know, it sounds completely crazy, but believe it or not, there's a straight line of cold, hard logic that gets us right here, and that's the mystery we're going to crack today.
So yeah, how is this possible? Right now, your gut is probably screaming that an apple has absolutely nothing to do with a raven, and you're not wrong to feel that way. But formal logic, well, it plays by its own rulebook. And if we follow that rulebook step by step, you'll see exactly how we end up at this very strange conclusion.
Okay, before we actually build the paradox, we need to lay down a couple of ground rules. Think of these as the basic tools in our logic toolkit. They seem really simple on their own, but they are the absolute building blocks for this whole thing. Once we've got these down, we can put it all together.
The first rule is something we do every single day. It's how we learn. Let's say your hypothesis is all ravens are black. Simple enough. If you go outside and see a black raven, that observation, that's a small piece of evidence. It doesn't prove you're right, not at all, but it does add a little bit of weight to your claim. Now for our second tool, and this one is crucial, logical equivalence. This just means that you can have two statements that are worded completely differently, but they mean the exact same thing. And here's the kicker. If two statements are logically equivalent, any evidence that supports one of them has to support the other one too. They're basically two sides of the same coin.
And this right here, this is the key that unlocks the whole paradox. Take a look. All ravens are black is logically identical. It means the exact same thing as the statement, all non-black things are not ravens. It might not seem like it at first, but just think about it. If one of these is true, the other one simply has to be. There's no way around it.
Look, let's make this simple. I know my dogs, and it is a fact that all of my dogs are good boys. That's my statement. Now, logically, that's the exact same thing as saying anything that is not a good boy is not one of my dogs. See? It's the same claim about the world, just said in a different way. That's all this is. Logicians call it the contrapositive, but all it means is flipping the statement around.
And hey, this isn't just some random brain teaser somebody cooked up online. This argument was laid out by a serious thinker, the German-American philosopher Carl Gustav Hempel, way back in the 1940s. He used this puzzle to really poke at the foundations of science and what we mean by evidence.
Okay, so now we have our tools. We know that evidence supports a claim, and we know that evidence for one claim also supports its logical twin. So, let's put the pieces together and actually build this famous paradox.
Let's walk through this slowly. Step 1. All ravens are black is the same as all non-black things are not ravens. We've established that. Step 2. You see a green apple. Well, that apple is a non-black thing, and it's also a non-raven. So seeing it confirms the statement all non-black things are not ravens. Step 3. Now, since those two statements are identical, evidence for one is evidence for the other, which leads us to the wild conclusion, Step 4, therefore, observing a green apple provides evidence for the statement all ravens are black. The logic, as strange as it feels, is solid. And yet, it just feels completely wrong, doesn't it? My gut tells me that looking at fruit in my kitchen can't possibly tell me anything about birds halfway across the world. And that's the paradox. The logic seems perfect, but the conclusion is absurd. So what gives? Is there a flaw somewhere? Or is there another way to look at it?
So, a lot of very smart people have tried to solve this puzzle. The first, and maybe the most common approach, doesn't actually try to find a flaw in the logic. Instead, it accepts the conclusion but says our intuition is just missing the bigger picture. This is what's called the Bayesian view. And these thinkers basically say, yep, the logic is 100% correct. A green apple does give you evidence that all ravens are black. The catch, they say, is that the amount of evidence it provides is so incredibly, vanishingly small that our brains just rightly ignore it as being totally useless. And I mean an exceedingly minuscule amount. Just think about it. How many ravens are there in the world? A lot, sure. But now think about how many non-black things there are. Green apples, red cars, blue shirts, white clouds, purple anything. The number is astronomical. It's basically everything in the universe that isn't a black thing.
This really puts it into perspective. Finding a black raven gives you a real solid chunk of evidence. Why? Because you've just checked one of the few things in the raven category and it fits the bill. But finding a green apple, you've just checked one thing out of the trillions and trillions of non-black things. So the evidence it gives is practically zero. It's not actually zero, but it's so close it makes no difference in the real world.
But, not everybody buys that explanation. There's another way to look at this whole problem, and it comes from a totally different direction. It actually questions the very first rule we set up, this idea that the goal of science is to confirm our theories in the first place.
This is the idea of falsification. Basically, it says you can never ever prove a statement like, all ravens are black is true. You could see 1 million black ravens, and there might still be a non-black one hiding somewhere, but all you need is one single white raven to prove the statement is false. So, from this point of view, good science isn't about looking for things that prove you right. It's about trying to find the one thing that proves you wrong. And a green apple? It can't prove the rule wrong, so it's not evidence. It's just there. It's consistent, but irrelevant.
So, after all that, what's the point? Why have philosophers been arguing about ravens and apples for almost 100 years? Well, it's because this little puzzle isn't just a mental game. It's a way to really test our ideas about what knowledge is and how we get it.
So here are the big takeaways. First, this whole thing shows that sometimes the strict rules of logic can lead to places that our common sense just doesn't want to go. Second, not all evidence is created equal. The context of the evidence matters immensely. And finally, the paradox really makes us stop and think. What do we even mean by evidence? Is it something that confirms an idea, or is it just something that doesn't manage to break it?
And that really leaves us with one last big question to chew on. We've just seen a perfect logical argument lead to a conclusion that feels totally wrong. So when that happens in the real world, when the math and the logic say one thing, but your gut screams something else, how much should we trust that logic? Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe for more fascinating videos from Plato's Footnote. Please provide your thoughts and feedback in the comments. Have a great day.